The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar, Economic Impacts of Brownfields Cleanup and Reuse. This webinar is being presented by Jeffrey Dykes, Billy Leung, and Sean McCarthy from REMI. I'm Brian Reel. I'm thrilled to host this webinar. I'm going to briefly introduce today's speakers, as well as REMI for those who may not be familiar. But first, if you have attended webinars in the past, you may have noticed that GoToWebinar has a bit of a different interface. The update should fix some issues people have had in the past with connecting. Let us know what you think. I hope you have found the change to be positive. So Jeffrey Dykes is an analyst at REMI. In his 8 years here, he has supported clients with various projects relating to housing, economic development, transportation, and more. He's also becoming an expert at each of our models. Billy Leung is the Senior Vice President of Business Development at REMI. For 22 years, he has contributed to REMI model development and supported our clients with economic impact analysis studies, transportation analysis, and equity analysis. Sean McCarthy is an economic assistant at REMI. Since joining our team, he has been involved with multiple projects, including an economic and socioeconomic impact analysis of a mixed-use development in Washington, D.C. At REMI, our mission is to inform public policy. We sell software that allows government decision makers to test the economic effects of their policies before they're implemented. We work in the fields of economic development, tax, transportation, energy and environment, equity, and more. If you have any questions about REMI specifically, I encourage you to reach out to us at info@remi.com. We would gladly connect you with one of the appropriate members of our team. If at any time during this presentation you have a question, I encourage you to enter that question into the question box, and time permitting at the end of this presentation, I will moderate these questions to our speakers. If we do not get to your question, we'll be sure to reach out to you personally. I also want to mention that shortly after the presentation concludes, a copy of the slides and a recording of the presentation will be shared to you through email. Once you have these materials, if you have any questions, I encourage you to reach out again to that info@remi.com address, and I would gladly connect you with the speakers. That is enough for me for now, so take it away, Billy.
Thank you, Brian. So to get everybody on the same page where we're at right now is we're looking at the economic impacts of brownfield cleanup and reuse. This idea came out of Sean's work, what he did over the summer with the Walter Reed redevelopment project. And at that particular project, he looked at specifically at mixed-use development, looking at affordable housing, looking at commercial redevelopment, looking at additional economic activity and amenity that spurs within a region from a development project like that. So it goes beyond just the impact of, let's say, redevelopment, construction, and maintenance of it. What we would call, I would say, the economic, the economic spending of a project. So what Sean did in that particular project was looking at the social economic impact of a project. So then, as I was talking with some users and folks that really was impressed with Sean's work, is, hey, what can you guys do about brownfields? So this is where we are right now. So I came back to the team, brought in Jeff, talked with Sean a little bit more, and let's dig into the models, see what the model can do about this particular topic area. Okay, next slide.
Yeah, so at REMI, as Brian had mentioned in the introduction, our goal is to inform public policy. So through each of our models, they work in a certain specialized way to inform policy, whether it's for general economic development, transportation analysis, tax analysis, energy, and so here are some of our clients that use our models for forecasting and then for economic impact analysis. Yes, Yukon, Sandia, MTC, all over the U.S. Next slide.
Yeah, so just a little bit about brownfields. Brownfields are defined as like a piece of land that has been previously used in maybe an industrial manufacturing setting and hasn't been used in quite some time. So the land over time becomes polluted or contaminated, so it can't be redeveloped at that point. So in order to utilize this land again, there must be a cleanup process that occurs on the land before any development can happen. Usually there's a whole process behind it. It's usually pretty extensive. It involves the EPA and other sort of factors. So yeah, if you just go to the next slide. So the objective of our study was to simulate a brownfield cleanup in Southern California based off a sample 24-acre plot. So the goal of the study was to see some of the economic changes in the area after the site had been remediated. Some of the factors might include employment, wages, population, other stuff. So doing this webinar and simulation, we're just going to try to figure out some of the impacts of a brownfield cleanup and what it can offer to a certain area. So this is some of the methodology. So why economic modeling? So economic modeling can provide a quantitative narrative to a policy, whether that be a development, a new law, a new tax. So some of the economic modeling implements can help get policy right, help decision making, help pass legislation or block it, and kind of just advocate for certain things. Also, if you're looking to get a grant for a certain thing, having a quantitative economic modeling really helps in some of those grants and other stuff.
This particular is the model linkage. And to tie in what Sean mentioned is this is how we come up with the quantitative figures that's in this particular analysis. This is called the 5-block structure. The first block is the macroeconomy. Now, when a typical economic impact analysis, they would often focus on the economic spending. I would say the economic spending of a redevelopment project, of a brownfields cleanup. So that's through the input-output portion of the model, linking in the output of one industry and how it demands from other industries to do the cleanup, to do the construction. And that's only a certain part of that. So once the money is gone, then that's the economic value. What Sean and his team looked at was to look at things a little bit more deeper. What is not just the economic spending of a brownfields cleanup, but what is the social economic impact? Specifically, what he looked at was when you migrate a population into an area, when you're able to keep a population, or when you redevelop an area to facilitate population, how does that provide to your labor force? How does that provide to consumption spending? How does it provide to the overall economy? Same with developing land, not just for residential, but developing land for commercial real estate. How can you actually, from that square footage, create additional square footage for companies to locate or relocate in that particular region to provide further economic growth, along with the amenity factor, making the area where a site was you weren't able to develop before, but now you are. Now you can utilize that land. That provides a positive amenity to the region, attracting population into your area. Again, continuing so in addition to the people that are living there, it makes the area more attractive. So even if you don't live in the area, it makes the area more well-off, attracting additional population, contributing to consumption, contributing to the labor force, contributing to the overall social economic health of the economy. And with this, we wanted to kind of tie it in to that framework. again, one of the things we want to look at, this kind of grounds it, 850 units, around 2,000 population that would remain in the area because of this. If not, they would have moved out. The model would have pushed them out because of unaffordability or different types of reasons. But now we add capacity for that population to actually live into the area. Construction, I believe the group is very familiar with this, the input-output component of it. When you spend on construction, how we'll actually pull from in other industries to support that spending in the construction sector. An amenity variable, like what I talked about, to provide incentives so that the region is a more attractive region for folks to live in. Long-term employment, the social economics of like, if you develop that land, now you have commercial real estate access for companies to move in addition to labor force, the 2,000 labor force, the other 2,000 population growth and the labor force that 2,000 population increase provides. And also the amenity of the EPA grant cleanup too. Next slide. So this is the overall result, just to tie everything together at the top level. This is what we get at 2045. This is the long-term benefit that we get. In addition to you do your construction development and it's one and done. No, these are sustained jobs that you get. And by 2045, what we see into the model is you have a long-term sustained growth of 3,400 jobs in the region. What we used a 19-region sub-county model of Southern California. And Sean, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this was done in South Central LA or City of Industries. I believe it's City of Industries. And Sean, I'm sorry, what region was this?
Yeah, you were correct. It was Southeast LA.
Southeast LA. Okay, so this was done in Southeast LA. So when we do this land use redevelopment in Southeast LA, this is what we get out of this for not just Southeast LA, but for the entire Southern California region. So we get sustained employment growth of 3,400, the direct of 1,400 jobs, indirect of 400 jobs, and induced jobs of 1,500. Now, these direct, indirect, induced jobs are beyond just construction. They're beyond just construction. They also include the companies that move in there, the companies that grew because of taking advantage of the labor force. So the numbers that you get are more than just construction multipliers. This is providing labor force, and this is providing land use for the local economy to take advantage of, and therefore supporting industries like, for instance, administrative services, professional scientific services, top 5 industries, food services, retail, trade, and real estate. Next slide. Now this, I want to kind of show that dynamic over time. So that first year, 2029, that's what you would get with the input output. But as you can see, this grows over time, showing that we're making a stronger, healthier economy in Southern California. Employment does drop because of the build cycle, and then it kind of maintains and grows a little bit in the outer years. But you can see the GDP growth in the long run because of that. A difference of that is it can be explained by labor productivity too. Overall health of the GDP grows, employment does dip down, but then it grows in the outer years. That first year is because of like the input output of like you build, you construct, and you demand from other sectors. Okay, next slide. This is the SEI component of it. Who benefits the most of it? The second income category benefits the second lowest, the second highest income category benefits the most. But then the outer years, the lowest 20% because of the jobs and the diversity of jobs you create. Actually, they start winning at 2044. So you can see that there's a change in the group that benefits, but all the group kind of benefits over time from this mixed use development. This particular example, for this particular presentation, my boss, Dr. Trays, wanted us to use AI. We're developing an AI module in the REMI model to be able to explain the results. On the right-hand side is an output from our technology. Our team has specifically calibrated the AI so that it accurately describes what the impact of the simulation is, of the impact is, so that it will be precise, so that it represents the REMI model correctly. Instead of, I know a lot of people don't like to use the word hallucination, but so that it keeps the description of the impact on track and accurate. So our development team has went into a lot of effort in working and developing this AI technology within the REMI model, so that it accurately describes the output of the REMI model, so it's accurate. For this instance, what Sean did was like, okay, let's put in population into the area, and that's the red chalk there, that net economic migrants. Now we have this opportunity to have population move into the area, or to retain this population. And then every year, because the model is pushing employment out, because, hey, I can't sustain this, I can't afford to live in South LA, Southern California, so they move out. But that's what the model thinks. Sean, being the analyst, says they're not moving out, they're maintaining because of this. They can afford it. So that's why that's the model lever that he picked, of reintroducing population into the area so it maintains at that steady rate. Okay, let's go into the next. So a good part of the economic impact of having population into the area is consumption. And as you can see, with having that population in the area, this is the consumption, and you can see it grows over time. This is important because REMI really understands population. When you make an area more competitive, or when you introduce population into an area, it has an economic impact. Unlike, I would say, a static model. So we understand by having that population, growing that population, you generate more economic activity, more people move into the area. And that's why that consumption goes up. And on the right-hand side, again, it's the AI description of that. Okay, let's go into the next slide. The final demand category. So this is like the overall economy. As you can see, the primary driver of this is consumption. More population into the area, more consumption. But you do get increase in investment because of economic growth, increase in government spending because of the population growth. Yeah, you do have your net trade is negative, but on the net, you need that imports to support that new population growth. All in all, it's a net positive for the economy of Southern California. Okay, let's go into the next slide. So that's great. We talked about population coming in and spending and things like that, right? So what else can they provide? One of the things that talking with our clients, Jeff, myself talking with clients, had a great session with over at the California Association of Local Area, CalEd, Local Economic Development, specifically talking about hey, we also some of their members, they're like, we're not just doing it for construction, but we're also not just doing it for population. What we want to know is like what happens. We want to build workforce housing. We want to have access to labor so it can contribute to our economy. So with that, we pulled that lever. We pulled, hey, what happens when this group of folks come in and they provide labor to the local companies, local industries. So we increase labor access by 1% here. So what that does is that reduces the cost of production, allows you to find better labor productivity, labor cost goes down, cost of production goes down, and then your economy increases. So let's go to the next slide. And here you can see all that. It pulls in different parts of the economy. Investment and market share, they all go up, exports. And so that kind of shows that with increase in labor access, you're having more population. It lowers that production cost by increasing your labor supply, lowering wages a little bit, but then also having more, be more competitive in your domestic and international market share, growing your economy, demanding more employment. Okay. All right. And the conclusion is that I think it's great that the folks are thinking a lot about looking at land use development, looking at brownfields development, focusing a lot on, hey, the impact on the construction, on the finance, and the economic impact of the spending. But that shows a part of the story. The reason why we think, and thank you for Sean and his work, is like there's more to that than construction, right? And the financing of it. You know, what you're doing, there's a social benefit, and there's a social benefit to the economy. And that includes allowing folks to live in the area, the amenity that brings in, long-term employment generation, and positive improvements of the environmental cleanup. These parts are often missed in these type of analyses. And we think it's important to have that in these type of studies, not just to look at the construction and spending of it, but the social impact of having these policies on the economy is also very important. Thank you. I can't hear you, Brian. I can't hear you, Brian.
Hi, everyone. As you can tell, we work in a small office, so I was able to run in here. We had some technical difficulties. I did write down some questions that we've received so far, and thank you to everyone who has asked questions so far. If you haven't, please at any point from this point on, if you add a question to the question box, I will ask that question. If we don't get to it, we will make sure to reach out to you after the presentation. Also, we'll be sharing the slides and a recording of this presentation after it's done. So once you have a closer look at the data, please reach out to us at the email address that's on your screen right now, info@remi.com, and I'd be happy to connect you with the speakers. So the first question was, which model was used for this analysis?
I have to thank South Coast Air Quality Management on this. So we used their model. It's a 19 region sub-county model. They really divided up the model really nicely. So it's a 160 sector, 19 region. They divided that. It's very unusual that we have that model, but we really wanted to go at the land use component. So that's the model that we used.
Awesome. Did you look at what income groups benefit the most from this expansion?
We should have done done it a little bit more. Yes. It's kind of like the scratching the surface. We would love to kind of look at that even more. The income, the race, the different types of education attainment. We would love to gone down deeper into more on that, but we haven't really gone. But that's a great suggestion.
Awesome. And what industries had the highest job growth from this project?
I think from let's go back on the slide. I think What's interesting is that it impacted all industries, but the top 5 industries here, administrative and support services. So that's I would say like your almost like the companies that support the headquarters. But all in all, there's a lot of growth in all the sectors. But this is very Southern California specific. So if you provide labor force to, let's say, a region, let's say in like Phoenix, Arizona, would be different. Portland, Maine would be different. This is very Southern California specific. So it's allowing Southern California industries to really take advantage of that. But for Southern California, professional scientific services and administrative, like back office, is really important. And food, which I like.
Yeah. Awesome. Those were all the questions that we've received up to this point for the presentation. As I mentioned earlier, please feel free, if you later on think of something or once you have the slides and the recording, something comes to mind, please reach out to us at info@remi.com. I would gladly connect you with the speakers, like I said, and set up a meeting. And also, as I just mentioned, in about an hour after the presentation concludes, I'll be sending those materials. So keep your eyes out in your email box at that point. Is there anything else that the speakers wanted to say at this point before we wrap up?
I just wanted to kind of thank all the users for, allowing us to do this and like giving us some great suggestions. If you guys have any critiques about how we did it, or like have any other questions, anything else you want us to kind of look at, please let us know. Sean and Jeff, his team, they can really think about like how would we actually frame that in our model structure. So please be open to that too for us here at REMI.
Awesome. Thank you, Billy. Thank you, Sean, Jeff, and Billy for the excellent presentation. Thank you for everyone who came and started the discussion. We hope you have a great day, and we hope you'll attend more of our webinars. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.